So welcome to my YouTube channel. So appreciate your time today. This video is going to be on a Singer Esteem sewing machine. I'm going to do a simple tutorial on how to thread this machine, as well as how to do a light oil and a light clean. I did purchase this machine at a very fair price, and I will be posting it for somebody else to enjoy, as I've got a few that I like to keep. But it's just helpful to have that tips and tricks that somebody else hasn't thought of. So I hope that you learn something from this video, and I hope that you enjoy it. So thank you, and hope you hit that subscribe button. Subscribe button, and hit that like button. Again, this is a tutorial on just the basics right now for the Singer Esteem sewing machine. So I'm just going to switch the camera at a different angle so you can see more of the machine and more of what I'm doing. Thank you. So this is the front of the Esteem Singer sewing machine. And these are the fancy stitches that it comes with. It's very important when you get these type of machines to make sure that it's sitting in certain positions. I always leave it at a number 3 stitch length and a stitch width, and number 3 as well as tension. Those are the standards for most machines. Some are standard at 4. So as you can see, the straight stitch is at letter A, which is in the display, and I'll show you that up closer. So I'm just going to shift this machine a little bit to the side here to show you the side what I'm talking about. What I'm going to do is I'm going to loosen this screw here, which is going to take this part off. Again, remember to keep certain machine screws in the same place. There are certain parts within the machine that I tend to oil just a little bit of oil. So I'm just going to cross over you here for a second to get my oil. Sorry. Okay, so this is the oil that I use. Could be any standard oil. I'm going to turn the machine on. So the light is showing. This machine was really good. So there's like specific little spots that I like to oil whenever I'm not using. And when I talk about a little bit of oil, I'm talking about a little bit of oil. You don't need to drench the machine down. It just needs very, very little. And that's what's good for maintenance. So obviously you can see I just needed to put a little bit at the top of this needle gauge here. Sometimes those machines get clogged with dirt and soot. I like to use a Q-tip with oil on it, of course, because the fibers are not always good to get into the machine, and just do a light wipe down on certain parts of the bar, because fabric and dirt and fibers can build up over time, but you don't want it to be drenched, as that can actually interfere with a very important project as it seeps down. So you can see how it's actually getting a little dirty here. So that's what I do. The other area that I'm also going to clean is down by this section here. Sorry about my arm. Down here is where the bobbin sits. Again, very light oil. I'll tip the machine to the side, and I will dab a little bit of oil into where the joints are. Again, very little. Most of these machines are built with metal, and they're built to last. So if there's anything extra, again, I try to pick it up with the Q-tip. If you don't have Q-tips or don't feel comfortable with using Q-tips, 100% cotton fabric is actually recommended. Now, the other great area that I'm actually going to also check is under the feed dog plate, which is this part here. There's always 2 screws on top. And this is the other reason why I take that cover off, is so I can get a better angle of it. Again, when we come to maintenance on our machines, the feed dog is quite common to get filled with dust and soot. Sorry about my arm. due to the fine fibers. There we go. Again, just remember where that screw went. Sometimes certain screws, even though they're the same size, have different positions. So again, what I like to do is I like to put oil on my Q-tip because that allows me to control how much oil there is. And then I'll do a light wipe down on certain areas and clean the oil and clean the dirt away. Sorry if my head is in the way here. If there's any fibers or any leftover dust, very, very important to clean that stuff away. And this is a good habit to do at the very beginning of a very big project. If you are an avid sewer and sew, I've heard that it's very important to do it every 4 hours. So as you can see, oh my goodness, look at that dust and dirt. Like, that's old oil too as well that builds up underneath. This is part of just general maintenance. I like to check underneath my dog feet to make sure there's no dust as well that's built up. Sometimes you can use a machine brush. So we're going to put these guys back. And again, rule of thumb, keep in a position or a memory of where it came from so you can remember where to put it back. Sorry, guys. Now, because this is a newer machine, I'm actually not going to touch the top. Usually with the older machines, I do take the top off and I check to see where the components are that just need a kiss of oil. Sorry about my arm, guys. Just want to make sure. Now, when you're tightening, you don't need to tighten until you break it because you can actually damage the threads. So another great trick that I like to do is check on where the bobbin sits. Now, over time, what happens is dust builds up and sometimes rust builds up. Now, again, this is a newer machine, so I don't need oil in here, but I do need to kind of wipe it out. As you can see, it does have dirt and fine fibers. Oil is great when it's a gear. Technically, this is a gear, but it doesn't need it. This is what holds the bobbin case, not the bobbin, but the shaft in place. So every now and then, it's good, again, just to clean that stuff away, just so it's sitting properly. So what I'm doing is I'm just kind of cleaning away this type of area. And again, look, it's dirty. Even though you're looking at it, it's clean. So even though I have oil on my hands, as you can see, it's a little shiny. I use that to just kind of polish up and clean it a little bit, but it doesn't need to be drenched in oil. So now I will put her sideways and I will make sure that my piece here is up. Oh, sorry. I will make sure that this piece is up. And I will make sure my needle is up. And when I twist to the side, I can pop this piece in comfortably. And this has a certain part that sits flat. Okay. I'm just going to show you a close-up. I'm just going to change the position of my camera. So as I was sharing with you, this needs to be up. Therefore, I can put this back in. I'm just going to take this guy out for a minute. So he's sitting in there snug as a bug. And this piece has a little gauge that it sits between. And that's what you want to line it up with so it sits in properly. Sorry about the camera, guys. Just want to see with my eyes what I'm doing. I'm doing this freehand. Once that sits back in place, these are the plastic holders that you just push in. If this is sitting right, you just pop it in. Very simple. Again, pop it in. And that's it. So over time, what happens is part of the machine will tend to get filled up with dust in the back there. Thread may get tangled underneath if it's not catching properly with this particular gauge. So you want to take it out, catch that thread that's loose, causing problems, take it out, put it back, and she should be go with a standard sewing machine. So what I'm going to now show you is I'm going to assemble the piece, the cover back on here. And then I'm going to, as you close that up, set this machine back. And again, I don't need to take this apart at the top. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you how we thread the machine and then sew. So now we're going to actually thread the bobbin. Now, rule of thumb is the bobbin goes counterclockwise. We know that the clock goes this way, thread goes this way. That's how we always remember. On the bobbin case, there is a space right here, as you can see, and it goes between here and here. Now this tiny little screw also allows you to control the tension of the thread. When you have thicker thread, you need to adjust your tension. Right now we have a standard thread, so I'm going to pop it in counterclockwise. As you can see, let it scoot through. Oh, thread broke. So that's an older thread. This is why we buy Gur thread, or there's a specific thread that you buy that is 100 years old. And it's for that reason, it's 100 years old, which means it'll last for 100 years old. So again, through here, okay, clicks. Now you can hold it with your thumb. Once you hold it with your thumb, you can hold the lever, and it's not supposed to let the thread fall out. Oh, it's not supposed to let the thread fall out. Okay, that's what holds it in there. As long as I'm holding this lever, okay? Hold it, doesn't fall out. And that's handy because when you're trying to put it into the space down here, you don't want it to fall out. So once you put it in, some people like to let it move around, or once it's in the right spot, they should just pop it in. And that's how you know it's locked in place. When it comes to threading this sewing machine, you place it in the thread holder, comes down and around, down, up, on the other side here, down again. Just going to switch hands. So there's two pieces. There's one here and there's one here. Sorry about the camera, guys. Now I like to leave the presser foot down because it actually has a bit of tension. Or I'm trying to move it and it's not letting me do what I want. You got to come right around it to get it in there. Let's see if I can do this with one hand. Okay, I'll show you after it's threaded because it's not being cooperative. So what I'm going to show you is how to pick up the thread from underneath. Now, I'm sorry I didn't show you how to went through this and through this. I needed 2 hands to do that. So I'm going to hold on to this thread here. I'm going to turn the handle, let it pick up the thread from the bottom, and I'm going to pull it through. Sorry about the angle of the camera. Once that thread is at the top, close the bottom, and I'm going to put this here. And now I can begin to sew. So I have myself a piece of scrap fabric. Okay, little pieces. So I'm going to press that down. I got my foot pedal plugged in, as you can see the lights on. I have number 3 stitch for the tension, number 3 stitch for the standard width, and number 3 for the length. I have it on letter A, which is a straight stitch, and then we're going to sew. Always make sure that this is at the top position. Your needle is up, and always pull your thread away from you. And then you can check the back. Now, when you're doing important projects, it's always important to make sure that when you're oiling, you sew on a piece of scrap fabric. Because as you can see, after I did a little bit of oil, look, there is still oil. So you don't want to start your project right away. Sorry about my hands. This is the reverse button. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch. Hit the reverse, and then the fabric goes backwards. Now, I'm not sure what that squeaking noise is all about. Might be something that just needs a little bit of oil, but I'll figure that out in a moment. As you can hear, there is a squeak coming from somewhere, and it sounds like it's somewhere up in this area here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the top. I'm going to take off the top, find out where the squeak is, give it a little bit of oil, and then I'll share with you what it sounds like afterwards. Okay? So I took off the plate on the front, off, gave it some oil in this area here, gave it some oil in this area in there, sorry, in there. And now, if you can hear the machine, I'm just going to run it. Sorry about the camera being a little wonky. As you can hear, the squeaking is gone. So 80% of the time, when you oil certain areas, here, oh, sorry, kind of doing this without looking. Here, here, and other areas in here, that's part of when you service it to try to get it working the way it's supposed to. So as you can see, she looks scary, but I'm going to put her all back together again and then show you what it sounds like when she's all done. So this is the bottom of the Fav sewing machine. The bottom was actually very easy to take off. It only had one screw, which is this one, which fits into this right here. What I did is I took the bottom off so that I can clean this area here of dust and dirt, which is very important when you're doing maintenance for this machine. As you can see, it's a very strong machine. You don't need too much to do with the bottom here. It's got a very strong belt, as you can see in the corner down here. So what I did is I put a little bit of oil, very little bit of oil here, a little bit of oil here on the gears, and a little bit of oil in here. Very little. In that section there, tiny little bit here. Now this section here is where the bobbin sits and the bobbin case sits. So time to time, dirt will build up in this area up here, or in between, as you can see here. So you just take a brush and you clean that away. But the way that this machine is built, dust doesn't usually build up. This is another motor. I'm not touching that part there. As you can see, there's no need to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the bottom on, screw it on, stand her up, and I'm going to show you what it looks like on top. So this is the follow-up video of the Esteem sewing machine after I put her back together again. I just wanted to share with you what it sounds like. There was a squeaking noise earlier and now it's gone, all because it's a simple oil and clean, which will make such a difference on the performance of a sewing machine. Now that she's ready to go, I will post her for someone else to be able to work with and create amazing projects. Thank you for watching my video. Look forward to you checking out my others. Have a good day.